today? Well, I'm glad you guys are joining us today. It is Sunday, August the 8th. Man, the summer is really flying by. I don't know about you guys, but it is flying by like crazy. So I couldn't think of a better day to have church today. We're all online again for hopefully the last week. We're preparing to be back on campus next Sunday. I just spoke to Janelle, and she's going to set up a band and get us ready to go for next Sunday. But you guys will have some kind of announcement from me by Wednesday in an email and probably online, and we'll set that up so you guys know what's going on by Wednesday. But we are shooting to have church. Oh, by the way, if you see something behind me smoking a little bit, the doctor said my allergies are at the highest she's ever seen them. So I got some special allergy and sinus oil that I diffuse in my office. It helps some, but there's only so much I can do. So, we're still in our Power of Words series, actually the second week. And today our topic is criticism. And man, this is such a tough topic, as I was bombarded with some of you this week in a good way, and others as I go around town in the criticism that's happening today in our culture with what's going on in the United States. And everybody seems to be criticizing everybody. Listen, I hope you get something out of today's message, because we have to get along, and our hope is always found in Jesus, and that's our commonality. That's where we find common ground, is at the cross with him. So no matter what you believe, it's okay. But let's dive into today's lesson. I'm not talking about constructive criticism, because we need constructive criticism in our life. I need people in my life that care enough about me to give me feedback to make me get better. What I'm talking about is that critical nitpicking. You guys know what I'm talking about? The unkind, the uninformed, that cruel criticism that so often goes on in our world, or maybe in our life. And some of you right now, you're smiling and you're thinking, man, thank you, God. I need to share this with so and so. Don't elbow your spouse, okay? But hear me out, because I think you'll find some of yourself in today's lesson, okay? Because when I wrote this and I started studying, it's like, man, this is all about you, Andy, because I can fall into one of these categories. So you're thinking about people and you can't wait for them to hear this. Remind yourself of this, okay? Remind yourself of this. The problem of criticism is it's difficult to see in the mirror, because we hate when other people criticize us. We often don't see it. We often don't see it in ourselves when we're criticizing other people. Often feel justified in a sense when we're criticizing them, right? So, we could use the words like this, like, well, if they weren't so weird, or if they weren't so stupid, and if they spend all their money in such an unwise way, then I wouldn't criticize them, because after all, I know what's best for their life. Not one has ever said that, but I bet you have. And you're kind of digging in. God has a wonderful plan for their life, and so do I. So if you are in that way, if you're digging into that and you're thinking, man, I do that, then this message is for you. It's for all of us. But we criticize. I will criticize the way you raise your kids. Some of us will do that, right? We'll criticize the way others dress. We'll criticize what you post on Instagram. We'll criticize the way you drive. We'll criticize where you went on your last vacation, because I know you're in debt and you can't afford it, right? So is this hitting close to home? Or am I the only one with this problem? So I want to get into a very popular verse this morning. Even if you're not a Christian watching, I bet you've actually heard some of this verse already, because it's really popular. Paul said this to the believers in Galatia, chapter 5, verse 14 and 15. He said, all that the law says can be summed up in the command to love others as much as you love yourself. Now, most of us know that verse. Most of us say we love it, man, and it's just a feel-good verse to love others as much as you love yourself. But then he goes on to say this, but if you keep attacking each other like wild animals, you had better watch out or you'll destroy yourselves. So he says, another version is love you, because in other words, sometimes we can be constantly critical and we can always be cutting into people. If you're always harsh with your words, be careful, because you may be destroying another person. And what if for some of you, your critical words are actually destroying potential intimacy in your marriage? What if your critical words are driving a wall between you and your children? What if there are those of you, or maybe like me, your critical words are actually keeping you from sharing the goodness of Jesus? Man, that's the part that bothers me the most, because people can't get over how critical you are about anything and everything. So they don't want any part of you. For sure, they don't want to hear about Jesus. Because if you're a Christian, I don't want to be like you, because you're the most critical person in the world. So we got to be careful that our words don't end up hurting those around us. So I'm gonna give you a couple more verses this morning, and I'm sorry I don't have anything online that you can see underneath, like a lower third. This is rough and raw. I have no techies, so I'm in my office at home. So you get what you got, okay? But the verse is like this. The verse will say one thing about a subject, they don't say something completely opposite about the very same subject. A good verse is Proverbs 12:18. Some people like to make cutting remarks. It's kind of like this. Have you ever been told by your elderly parent, or maybe your grandma, or I don't know, maybe an older friend, did you lose your phone? Or let me put it in Cajun. Man, did you lose your phone, Shaq? Well, no, Grandma, no. Well, I could, you could have called. I could have been dead on the floor. Nobody would have ever known. You know what that is? That's a burn from that person. That's a cutting remark. We call it slanted remarks, and we don't mean anything about it. But here's the other side of that verse. But the words of the wise soothe and heal. And it makes me think of I'm always injuring myself somewhere. I got cuts all over my hands and things like that, because I do a lot of stuff outside in the yard. And I have some antibiotic ointment that has a deadener in it, a lidocaine in it. I mean, you put it on that cut or that wound and it feels good, right? It's kind of like that. You put it on that wound and it feels good. The pain goes away. Some people cut, hurt, and criticize. Other people speak words of wisdom, words that build up, words that don't tear down, words that create healing. Ephesians 4:29, Paul said it this way. He said, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. He said, don't let unhelpful, unwholesome, impure words come out of your mouth. Don't let the words that you speak be words that are kind, that build up. Hey, you want somebody to follow you, or some belief you have? Build them up. Don't rip them apart. And here's what I hope you'll understand. Sometimes I think we have no idea how a single word of criticism can pierce someone to the soul, and it sticks with them for years and years and years. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you've been wounded by a critical parent. You understand that, and that hurt doesn't go away. Yet on the other side, sometimes we have no idea how God can use one single word of encouragement, one single word to build power. Scripture says again, some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only that which is helpful for building others up according to their needs and benefits those who listen. We have no idea sometimes how one critical word can take someone down. And again, we have no idea sometimes how one word of encouragement can build someone up, can give them hope that they've never had before. You know, our words have the power of life and death. So let me ask you a question. What kind of person do you want to be? I'm going to give you a couple of options this morning, okay? I'm going to give you a couple of options so you can write this down or think about it. What kind of person do I want to be? The first kind of person, that option is a fault finder, a fault finder. And quite honestly, I think that's where most people are. You know, because of we battle our sin nature, we tend to find the wrong in things before we find what's right. We tend to find the wrong in people or the faults in people before we find the good things. You know, and for those of us who are married, man, we got to be careful, okay? Because it's easy to be the fault finder, right? But I can be very critical, you know, and take a relatively good person, you know, my wife, and we can pick them apart, right, men, right, ladies? We can pick them apart before you even have lunch that day, man. I don't like the way you walk. Do you have to chew that way? The jokes you tell, oh my gosh, can you please stop? The snoring, oh my gosh. Here's the best one. I don't like the way you breathe. Some of you laughing right now, but you've heard that conversation, right? I don't like the way you breathe. Or maybe this, you can go into the office. You can go to the office tomorrow, and here we go. I hate the way she runs meetings. Oh man, the way that they talk. They don't ever seem to have a real plan. You know, this is the stupidest place I've ever been, craziest place I've ever worked. I can't believe what they're doing. Wait a minute, wait. She says she loves Jesus. Look at how she loves her body. But you know, I'm not judging, I'm just saying. Look at what they post on Instagram. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. You know, can you believe the way they raise their kids? Oh my gosh. Their kids are on the fast track for prison right now. Those kids don't have a chance. Oh, and by the way, have you seen how they drive their car? They better take that Christian bumper sticker off the back because they're such a bad witness in today's world. See, it's easy to be a fault finder. It's so easy to be a fault finder, right? It's easy. And if you're a fault finder, let me remind you of this. You're like the Pharisees. That's exactly what the Pharisees did. You're not only like the Pharisees, you're like our enemy, Satan, the devil. You know, the names for the devil are the deceiver, the devourer, the prince of darkness, the father of lies, the accuser. What does he do? He finds fault. That's what Pharisees do. You know, that's what the devil does. The reality is that's what a lot of us do. I say us, me included. Why do we do it? Here's what I think. A lot of times because we're full of pride and we think we know what's best. We think if we push this issue, we know I know what's best for you guys. I love you. But we're so full of pride that we think we know what's best. Also, we're insecure, therefore we criticize others. And sometimes the very things that are our weaknesses in ourselves, we're criticizing others for. There's another reason why we criticize, is that we just don't understand. So often, especially in today's world, guys, you know, social media is awful. We criticize from a distance, even the news. We criticize, or should I say that, especially, that we criticize from a distance things we know nothing about. Nothing about. You can criticize a lot about the church. And, you know, I'm so thankful for you guys understanding why we had to close for 2 weeks. And I thank you so much. But, you know, some people don't understand. And if you had the context behind it, you might say, oh, I understand. You know, and I think a lot of times we get that way before we have kids. You know, so think about this. Before I had kids, man, I could criticize parents all day long. how they didn't discipline their kids in the grocery store or the restaurants. I can't believe they're allowing that child to do that, you know? And, I didn't have kids. So, hey, I could do that, right? Right. But when you have your own 2 year old in the grocery store, yep, you know what I'm talking about? You can't negotiate with the terrorists, man. That 2 year old's a terrorist in the grocery store or the restaurant. You don't know this until you have your own 2 year old, right? And then you say, well, I can't judge anybody. And as you're walking out the grocery store and you got the kid in a chokehold like this, and you know this is bad parenting, and I just want to surrender, and you just say, I give up, and you can have all the candy, and you're shoving candy into the kid's mouth. And listen, kid, you get the pony, man. I will buy you the Corvette. Please stop embarrassing us as I put you in the car. You don't judge anybody because you didn't understand